afternoon, folks. It's really difficult to comprehend truly the changes that have occurred over the last several weeks. It still feels very surreal in some respects. But of course, every hour locked away, every day that passes, makes it a little bit more real. In many respects, it still feels like we're extras in some kind of movie. I'm standing in my living room at the moment, and as you can see behind me, one of the ways I've decided to pass the time is to do a little bit of home decorating, a little bit of DIY. And I know that many of you will be contemplating, if you've not already started, the same kind of thing. In fact, I'm sure over the next few weeks, our houses will never be cleaner or more fixed up or more beautifully decorated, or our gardens will never look so good. But of course, many of us are facing much grimmer challenges and changes over the next few days and weeks. Loss of income, maybe even loss of employment, God forbid, but there are many who are experiencing that prospect. And as well as, of course, the worry and the fear over our physical health, there's also the challenge of staying mentally well. Keeping ourselves busy is definitely one way we can do that. But sharing our lives together and continuing to find creative ways of sharing our lives together is also something that is really going to help us through these very difficult times. It's a real challenge as believers when we look at the model of the early church in Acts chapter 2 and 4, where they were daily sharing their lives together, sharing meals, visiting one another, encouraging one another with God's word, praying and worshiping together. And that's, of course, something that we can't do physically at the moment, but mercifully, technology permits us to share our lives in other ways. And we want to help, and we want to help you. And if you think that there's anything that we can do to support you through the next few days, weeks, and even months, then please let us know. If we can deliver food, if we can order supplies for you, if we can arrange for delivery of things, if we can just speak to you over the phone or through technology like this. We will, of course, continue to pray for you. Daily, Scott and I will deliver some sort of encouragement by video from God's word or from our own experiences. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear about what you're going through and the challenges you're facing, and perhaps how you're dealing with it and how you're overcoming it. And maybe that's something that we can all share together. We can all contribute in that way. But not only do we want to help you, we're also asking for your help today. Of course, the centre is closed. And our primary sources of income, of course, have dried up. All of the community groups and organisations that use the centre on a daily basis, of course, are no longer doing so. And not being able to meet together on a Sunday service, of course, we can't take up tithes and offerings. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't still support the church. And we're asking you that if you can, understanding that times, of course, are very challenging and very difficult for all of us. But if you can in any way continue to support the church, we would be very, very grateful. There's details at the bottom of the screen about how you can continue to give tithes and offerings. Maybe by bank transfer, or if you have any other creative ways in which you think you can do that, then please let us know. So we would be very, very grateful if you could continue, at least in some respect, towards the finances of the church, to allow the ministry to go on and, of course, to survive in the longer term. Of course, the church isn't just about a building or a place where we get together. It is very much the people who are the lifeblood and the church itself. And I'm reminded of Jesus' words, which encourages us that we don't have to physically be together to share our lives. Now, his words said that even when just 2 or 3 are gathered, there he is in the midst of us. We're facing gatherings of perhaps even smaller than that or not at all. But of course, technology permits us to maybe not be physically close, but certainly to be together. And whilst perhaps that was not something that could have been envisioned as the Bible was being written, it's certainly something that is still relevant for us today. So as we communicate through technology, we're still together. And Jesus is still present. And in fact, maybe even in some surprising ways. Maybe as we share our lives together remotely and find creative ways of doing so, we'll find God surprising us with his presence, with his blessings, with his gifts. Shortly after Jesus' crucifixion and death, prior to his resurrection, the disciples were scattered, and many of them hid in isolation, afraid perhaps of the authorities and what persecution they might be facing as a follower of Jesus. We see that, of course, in the example of Peter. But also because they were uncertain of the future, worried, not sure what tomorrow would bring, looking like all the dreams that they had pinned on this Jesus were now lost and gone. And in that isolation, in that separation from one another, there were still surprises from God. And in fact, Jesus began to appear amongst them in unexpected and unannounced ways. And perhaps as we share our lives over the next few days and weeks and maybe even months together, God will do the same for us. Show up in unexpected ways. So if you've got any stories to share, please share them. Please let us know. Maybe we can all benefit from what God has been doing in your life, or the encouragement that you've drawn from stories within God's word, or stories of others' self-sacrifice in a time when we're tempted to be selfish, stories of love and compassion and kindness. There are many heroes who are coming to the surface, who are in the spotlight at the moment, and many heroes who are quietly just going about being the best kind of support and help and friend that they can possibly be. So whether quiet, whether loud, whether public or private, in whatever way that you can continue to be somebody's support, somebody's hero, do that. Be Jesus to someone. Surprise them maybe even with a phone call, a little bit of compassion and kindness. Even just taking the time to look in on one another, to check that one another is okay, could really make a difference. God bless you, folks. Thank you for your continued support of Pilgrim Community Church. And we will speak to you again soon. Thank you.